I'd like to call to order this meeting of Orangeville Town Council for Monday, June the 6th. Could we have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Ms. Portman-Cherry, could we have the singing of our national anthem, please?
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you to David Nairn, Artistic Director of Theatre Orangeville. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa of the Three Fires Confederacy. This meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Any member of the public connecting via telephone is reminded to press *6 to mute and unmute. Please remain muted until the chair requests comments or questions from the public. As per our procedural bylaw, this is a statutory public meeting, and I'm going to be turning the chair over to Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll quickly outline the procedure we're going to follow tonight. Anyone who would like to speak to this matter is to call 1-289-801-5774 and enter conference ID number 301-319-828 #. Callers will be invited to provide their questions or comments following the conclusion of the meeting presentation. Any member of the public connecting via telephone is reminded to press *6 to mute and unmute. Please remain muted until the chair requests comments or questions from the public. Anyone who wants to be notified of further consideration of this topic may submit their name, phone number, mailing address, and email address to planning@orangeville.ca or call 519-941-0440 extension 2254 and reference file number 0OPZ 2012. Sorry, let me start over again. OPZ-2021-02. Note, any information collected will be a matter of public record. So we'll start off tonight with a presentation by our senior planner, Larissa Russell. Larissa, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to make sure everyone can see that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So good evening, Your Worship, members of council, and those in attendance. Tonight's public meeting is being held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to share information about the applications with council and members of the public, to obtain any comments and answer any questions. A recommendation or decision on the application will not be made tonight. An information report has also been included on this evening's agenda and provides more details about the applications. The applicant and agent are in attendance and will be providing details as part of their presentation and will be available to answer any specific questions raised by council or members of the public. The official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications were filed by IBI Group on behalf of Haymount Investments on September 8th, 2021, and deemed complete by the town on September 21st, 2021. The application is proposing the development of 58 condominium townhouses consisting of 39 standard townhouses, 9 rear lane townhouses, and 10 back-to-back townhouses. The subject lands are located on the south side of Broadway between Sea Line and Diane Drive. As shown on the slide in the blue outline, the original applications only included 340 Broadway. The revised applications today, shown in the red, also include 31 Sea Line and the rear portion of 15 Sea Line. The subject lands have a combined lot area of approximately 2.47 hectares, with approximately 113 meters of frontage along Broadway and 80 meters of frontage along Sea Line. The lands are accessible via existing driveways from both Broadway and Sea Line. The property is surrounded by a mix of residential and commercial uses, as well as open space conservation uses associated with the Mill Creek. As I mentioned, the original applications only included 340 Broadway, and at that time, the proposed development was 31 townhouses. With the revised applications across all 3 properties, the proposed development is 58 condominium townhouse units. This consists of 39 standard townhouses, which are shown in orange, 9 rear lane townhouses, which are shown in pink, 10 back-to-back townhouses, which are shown in purple. There's also 2 amenity spaces proposed for the sole use of these residents, shown in green. Parking is proposed at a rate of 2 spaces per unit, with an additional 11 visitor parking spaces, for a combined total of 127 parking spaces. Vehicular access is proposed via one entrance from Sea Line, and the existing detached dwelling will maintain sole access out onto Broadway. The applicant will provide further details as part of their presentation. The subject lands are designated residential on Schedule A with a low-density residential overlay on Schedule C in the town's official plan, which permits single and semi-detached dwellings up to a maximum density of 25 units per net residential hectare. The subject lands are also identified as an intensification area on Schedule B1 of the official plan, which slates them for redevelopment at a higher density than currently exists. In order to facilitate the proposed development, an official plan amendment is required. The amendment proposes to redesignate the subject property from low-density residential to low-density multiple. The low-density multiple designation permits singles and 2 to 4 unit dwellings, as well as row and townhouses at a maximum density of 49 units per net residential hectare. The lands are zoned residential third density in our zoning bylaw, which permits a range of uses as listed on the slide. In order to permit the proposed development, a zoning bylaw amendment is required. The amendment proposes to rezone the subject property from residential third density R3 to multiple residential medium density RM1 with a site-specific provision and holding symbol. The site-specific provisions are required to permit the various types of townhouses being proposed. The applications were circulated to internal departments and external agencies for comment. Comments from the Building, Environment, and Transportation and Development divisions of the town, as well as utilities and school boards, have expressed no concerns with the proposal. In terms of any detailed comments, planning staff has provided some minor comments, which consist of small revisions and advising that cash in lieu of parkland will be required. As of today, we have not yet received comments from the Credit Valley Conservation Authority. And regarding public comments, at the time of preparing our presentation and staff report, we had only received informal comments, which consisted of concerns with traffic, noise, and density. Today we held our statutory public meeting, so in terms of next steps, the Planning Division will await a revised submission to address any comments received today and any CBC or outstanding comments. And in the future, we will prepare a staff report back to Council for a decision. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larissa. We'll now hear from Julia Redfern from the IBI Group, 340 Broadway. Go ahead, Julia.
Great, thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Julia Redfern, and I'm here today with Ms. Carmen Jandu. We are both registered professional planners from IBI Group, the planning consultant on behalf of Haymont Investments Limited, respecting a proposed development at 15 and 31 Sea Line and 340 Broadway in the town of Orangeville. This evening, I will be describing the details of the proposed development and planning applications before you and providing a high-level overview of the applicable planning policy framework. This presentation will be around 8 to 9 minutes to get all of the information across. So to start us off, I just wanted to provide you with some background information on the owner. They are a land developer, builder, and property manager of residential and commercial developments across southwestern Ontario for approximately 40 years under various company names, including Haymont Investments Limited, among others. They are a long-standing Orangeville developer and builder with residential projects found throughout the community. As Larissa explained, the subject lands have a total lot area of approximately 2.47 hectares and vehicular access via driveways onto Broadway and Sea Line. The subject lands currently comprise 2 single detached dwellings and accessory structures. There is also a natural heritage feature on the north portion of 340 Broadway that comprises a non-significant woodland, the Mill Creek, and fish habitat that will all remain protected through various mitigation measures, such as a 30-meter development setback. With respect to the surrounding context, the subject lands are located within an established mixed-use area, varying in densities and land uses. There are residential, commercial, institutional, and recreational uses within proximity to the subject lands. Development on the subject lands is guided by planning policy outlined in the PPS, growth plan, County of Dufferin official plan, and the Town of Orangeville official plan. The PPS provides policy direction on matters of provincial interest regarding land use planning in Ontario. It focuses growth within settlement areas and away from significant resources, recognizing that land must be carefully managed to meet the full range of current and future needs while achieving efficient development patterns. The growth plan builds off the PPS and guides future growth within the Greater Golden Horseshoe to a time horizon of 2051. It supports the achievement of a complete community and directs development and growth to where municipal services and infrastructure exist or are planned. The Dufferin County official plan provides policy direction and guidance on matters of growth management for their 8 municipalities. It identifies subject lands as being within the urban settlement area and built boundary. The county is currently in the process of updating their official plan through a municipal comprehensive review to account for growth until 2051, whereas their current plan has a time horizon to 2036. The Town of Orangeville official plan defines the community's vision for long-term growth and development by including policies related to the environment, social, and economic factors. The town official plan designates the subject lands as residential, open space conservation, intensification area, low-density residential, and as being within the built boundary. Here you will see Schedule C, residential density plan of the official plan, demonstrating a portion of the subject lands as being designated as low-density residential, which permits detached dwellings and a maximum of 25 units per net residential hectare. Here you'll see the subject lands are zoned residential third density and residential third density holding, which permits singles and semis. The holding provision prevents development on the subject lands from proceeding until servicing requirements have been confirmed and formally allocated to the development. A separate application to remove the holding symbol will be required at a future date. Here you'll see the site plan for the proposed development. The owner is proposing to sever and retain the existing dwelling at 340 Broadway and redevelop the remaining 1.63 hectares with 58 new townhouse units serviced with a 6-meter wide condominium road. The proposed townhouses will be accessible from Sea Line, where the existing single detached dwelling at 340 Broadway will continue to have their driveway access from Broadway. The proposed townhouses provide a mix of dwelling types, including 10 3-story back-to-back units, 9 3-story rear lane towns, and 39 2-story standard towns. 2 parking stalls are proposed per unit, which includes the driveway and garage, in addition to 11 parking spaces for visitors. With respect to amenity space, 1,238 square meters of outdoor amenity is located among two areas on site, found centrally and in the southeast portion of the subject lands. The proposed site design is functional as it complies with emergency service and waste collection standards. Here you will see the preliminary elevations for two-story townhouses on the top and preliminary elevations for the three-story back-to-back townhouses on the bottom.
You just want to see this.
Here you will see the preliminary elevations for the rear lane towns that are proposed to front onto C line with their garages accessible from the internal condo road. A number of technical studies were prepared that support the proposed development, including, but not limited to, a functional servicing and stormwater management report, an environmental impact study, a traffic impact study, a planning justification report, a hydrogeological report, geotechnical investigation, salt management plan, tree preservation plan, environmental noise study, and environmental site assessment. As Larissa noted, preliminary public concerns have been received respecting traffic, noise, and density. Firstly, a traffic impact study was prepared by Triton Engineering Services, who confirmed that the C-line access provides excellent visibility and there is no anticipated congestion at the entrance or intersections. They have also concluded that the existing road network has sufficient capacity to support future traffic operations and no improvements to the surrounding road network are required to accommodate the proposed development. A concern was also raised respecting noise. An environmental noise feasibility study was prepared by Valcoustics Canada, which proposed noise fences and special ventilation requirements for some of the buildings to sufficiently mitigate transportation-related noise exceedances on the proposed townhomes. Valcoustics has also advised that no mitigation measures are required to address stationary noise sources on the proposed townhomes, such as noise related to the adjacent commercial operations. Construction, on the other hand, is an unavoidable circumstance of development. Hours of operation will comply with common practices. Provided the planning applications are successful, construction would be planned to begin in 2023 and completed by 2024. Lastly, density was raised as a concern by members of the public. It is important to note that the subject lands have been specifically designated as an intensification area within the town's official plan since 2010, meaning they are identified for strategic infill development and intensification. The subject lands were identified as an intensification area due to an underutilization of land and potential for infill. When considering intensification, compatibility with adjacent residential areas needs to be taken into consideration, along with scale, shadowing, energy use, and other land use planning matters. The Planning Act requires municipalities to periodically update their official plans to ensure they maintain alignment with provincial policy direction. The town began reviewing their official plan in 2015, but it was put on hold while the province updated their planning framework. In the town's 2016 land needs assessment, the subject and adjacent lands were identified as a potential intensification site, as shown here. A land needs assessment is a technical study that determines how much land is needed in a municipality to accommodate growth. Specifically, the town's land needs assessment identified this area as potentially requiring 50 units per hectare to accommodate future population growth to 2036, equating to 161 units. We are proposing 36 units per hectare due to environmental constraint, which is shy of what the town anticipated in their land needs assessment for these lands. The town has now reinstated their official plan review, but are currently focusing on non-growth management aspects and will commence the updated land needs assessment at a future point in time. The province, however, is now requiring municipalities to account for growth until 2051, meaning it can be expected that they will need to increase their intensification targets within the built boundary to accommodate anticipated growth. An official plan amendment is required to implement the proposed dwelling type and density, whereas a zoning bylaw amendment is required to implement the proposed dwelling type and site-specific provisions that achieve a more efficient form of development that facilitates back-to-back townhomes, rear lane towns, and standard townhomes. In conclusion, the proposed development is consistent with applicable planning policy framework, is viable from a technical perspective, increases the mix and range of residential types and densities in the town, is compatible with the surrounding built form, and facilitates an appropriate form of residential infill within the built-up area of the town of Orangeville. With respect to next steps, complete planning applications have been circulated to development agencies for comprehensive review. We have received some comments from agencies and will be meeting with the town later this week to go over them. Then there will likely be a resubmission to address agency and public comments we receive here today. And then it is anticipated that a staff recommendation report will go before council later this year. I also want to note that public comments are encouraged throughout the entirety of the planning process. That concludes the presentation. Thank you for attending and listening. Carmen and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you very much, Julia. We'll get on to correspondence. You'll note that we've had two letters of correspondence, one from Barb and Larry Rankin and Jody Atherton. I'm sure you've had a chance to read those. We'll now take questions from the public. Is there any member of the public wishing to ask a question? Remember to hit *6 to mute and unmute. Is there anyone from the public wishing to ask a question? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to questions to council. I just have one quick question for Larissa.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Just state your name and address and go ahead and ask your
Yes.
question.
Thank you. It's Nancy Prendergast at 3 Sea Line in Orangeville.
Okay, Nancy.
Yeah, so I looked through the plans, and is there some kind of model that I can look at to know where this our neighbor has sold or has given the developer part of his backyard? And so I want to know exactly, you know, how this is going to look when I look out my windows now, because it's going to be right beside us and right behind us.
Yeah, Larissa, is that something you could answer?
I can take that. So the site plan does show the proposed lotting pattern at the rear portion of 15 Sea Line, which I believe the member of the public is speaking to, which is some standard townhouse dwellings, 2 stories.
So would they be facing at the front or the back? I don't understand how you're building them. So I guess what I want to know is I want to actually see what the finished product could look like.
So you can get in touch with me and I can gladly share the plan with you digitally, or you can come in person and I can explain that to you and show you. But the layout is proposed to have their backyards, I guess, adjacent to your side property line, if that clarifies a bit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And is there going to be any kind of fencing to, you know, that the developer's going to put in for the properties?
I'll let the other ladies speak to that if they wouldn't mind jumping in.
And the property.
Good evening through you, Mr. Chair. My name is Carmen Jandu. I'm a planner with IBI Group. A proposed landscape plan will be provided as a part of this development, and fencing will be considered as a part of this. But right now, I don't believe, Julia, that we have anything right now. However, we can take this back to our client and have further discussions about it. Right
okay,
now.
My husband. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, please go ahead.
No, that's fine. I just, you know, I would like to have some kind of boundary fence there because there's a lot of wooded area there.
Right.
And like we have a lot of wooded area there at the back.
As a part of.
I wouldn't want, you know, people to have access to that whole wooded area that's our property, especially kids. You know, I don't want anyone to get hurt.
Absolutely. And this is a question that we can absolutely take back to our client. We've worked really well with the past with neighboring properties for infill developments like this. And I'm confident that we can meet and address your needs here.
It's actually Credit Valley Conservation Authority, so there are setbacks that are in place by the Credit Valley Conservation Authority. So I hope people know that you can't build within those drip lines of the tree.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. We are in consultation with the Conservation Authority through this development application process. Part of the development with the introduction of the new properties on Sea Line allow us to change the location of the access. And by doing that, we are able to maintain and actually provide the buffer to protect the entire natural heritage area that's been designated and regulated by the Conservation Authority. So what does that mean? It means that we're outside the drip line, we're outside of the 30-meter setback from Mill Creek, and when we've provided an additional 10-meter buffer from it. So we're continually getting comments from the Conservation Authority, and we will continually address them as we move along this process.
Okay, I understand your position on this, but the drip line is not the creek line, it's the tree line.
Yes.
In that.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely correct. And the drip line has been identified and staked and shown on the proposed site plan. It's been, when we do developments like this and we look at drip lines, we do that walk and stake it and then have it confirmed again by the Conservation Authority. So they're in agreement with the location of the drip line. They've been out there to review it, and they were there during the staking as well.
Okay, what I need is know what you're talking about, like where the drip line actually is on our property. I need to know where that is. And
so
it's not 90 feet from the creek. It's 90 feet from the trees that feed that creek. That's the way I interpret it.
So the drip line, is it best, Larissa, can I share my screen just so I can just show the site plan? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, sir, can you see my screen?
Pardon?
No, we
Can you see my screen?
No, we're looking
No?
at the.
I'm looking at a blank screen.
No, we're looking at your presentation. We're not on live here. We're looking at.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's I can share. So I can just show the site plan. Is that okay? Sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So,
Okay, so can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? No.
I can't see your screen, no.
No, we're looking at your presentation. We're not on live here. We're looking
at. So if I can assist then, if I can just describe it, on the site plan, we do have identified the new surveyed drip line, and you're going to see that across our property, and it's identified in a light blue line. And if you go and maybe visit the town hall when Larissa is showing you maybe the rear yards of the proposed units against your lot, maybe Larissa, if you can identify the drip line as well for her, just so that they have an understanding. Yes. But definitely it's on our plan. It's been identified as one of the kind of the delineated hazards that we have to accommodate for. And that's how we're confident that the development is wholly outside of that hazard area and those natural area buffers. And that's all facilitated because we were able to pick up that additional land on Sea Line, so that we're able to just come right out of the natural heritage features and maintain 340 Broadway the way it is right now.
So Nancy, maybe the best thing for you would be to go to town hall and actually see the lines and the property lines and stuff like that. It might be a lot easier to explain. Would that be okay with you?
That's fine. I just have one other question to ask. I know I'm sort of hogging the time here. I'm trying not to, but
go right ahead.
So one other concern that I have is that right now, everything from Sea Line and in front of our property goes into Mill Creek. There's, it just goes right into the creek. There's nothing to stop the salt, the sand, the dirt. And so I know I'm I'm just wondering about, you know, all of that stuff going into the creek at the bottom of Sea Line and Broadway there.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can take that question. As a part of this development application, a functional servicing report has been submitted to the municipality for review. And what a functional servicing report talks about is the stormwater system, the stormwater management. They talk about sanitary sewers. They talk about water supply. A part of this report is to identify, especially in this area, because we're in a source protection area, for your wellhead protection area too, we identify how the amount of rain that goes into the ground today will be the same amount of rain or infiltration that they call it, past development. And also that the stormwater management will be contained within the development. So when considering development applications like this, we have to be able to maintain the stormwater and make sure that the stormwater that comes out of the development is clean, maintain that the stormwater that's coming out of the development is in the same quantity as what was going in there pre-development. We always look at the pre-development and post-development. So what our functional servicing report has concluded at this preliminary stage before our detailed design is that we have to incorporate what they call oil grit separators to make sure that the quality of water that's coming out of our source system is within the regulations of the CVC, and also that we meet the target quality, like the target quantity of water that's going back into the ground and back towards Mill Creek, just to maintain those stream levels. And happily, I can say that we exceed the target for Orangeville for those for infiltration, which what they call that is a net gain. It's a positive thing. So in determining this, we found that the development isn't going to be have any adverse effects, what they call, for that stream system.
Yeah, and okay, can I have a look at all the studies as well? Is that open to the public that you've done? I've noticed you've done quite a few studies.
Yes, Nancy, I did just send you an email. We can touch base offline. You can come in to view the studies if you'd like to do so, or I can send them to you by email, but we can touch base and make sure you have everything you need to take a look at.
Okay. And we're on a well here, and we want to keep our well. And I just wonder where the water is coming from for the development, and if it will affect our well, our volume. How is that water? And yeah, and the excavations of the homes. You know, we don't want to have to lose our well here. We really like it.
To you, Mr. Chair, I can take that question again. As a part of this development, we're proposing full municipal services for this development. What that means is that this development is going to be serviced from public water lines and public sanitary sewer lines. Right now, both for 340 Broadway and 15 Sea Line, there's existing historical, and I think even with yours, Ms. Prendergast, historical septic systems, which a positive objective of this development is to remove 2 septic systems from that wellhead protection area to maintain water quality and quantity within the wellhead protection. So I think in terms of protecting your well, I think the removal of the septic systems is going to be a positive gain for you at this point. With respect to water taking, your well would not have any kind of adverse effects from the development because these will be serviced with municipal water.
But are you using the pump house at the bottom of the street to pump the water? Because we've had tests done before with that. So where's the water coming from?
It would be from the existing water supply that's on Sea Line, yes.
Okay, so the pump house at the bottom of the street is going to be used for the development.
I have to go back with our engineers for that, but I would assume so, yes. However, I understand that the municipality is also in discussions with further water systems that's going to be able to meet their water needs for additional growth in the municipality. So I know that existing conditions for water are going to be changing for the positive in the future for Orangeville.
Okay, that's good to know. I just, I am worried about our well. I don't want to have town water here for sure. We want to keep our well, and I know where our neighbor's septic system is. It's at the back of their property. They had to put it at the back because of our well. They were going to put it at the front, but it was too close. So, I just, I'm concerned about the sewage and the water as well, all of that kind of thing. So I will definitely be coming over to the town, and I don't know if I should make an appointment or if I can just show up there or how that works to see the official plan.
That would be your preference, Ms. Pendergast. I'm typically in the office Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If you'd like to come in on a different day, I can make sure that someone has everything available for you to take a look at.
Okay. No, we'll come in when you're there. I'm not sure if it'll be this week or next week, but I'd like to have it's hard for me to look at this on a flat piece of paper and kind of figure it all out. So I hope you can have patience with me for that. Sorry.
I'd be happy to help. That's no problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's all my questions for now.
Thank you, Ms. Pendergast. That's great. Thank you for your questions. Is there anyone else on the line that wishes to ask a question? Go ahead.
Hi there. It's
State
Natasha
your name.
Hutima.
Yes, go
Natasha
ahead.
Hutima from Brenda Boulevard. I've raised quite a few concerns, funny enough, those 3 points that were on the PowerPoint. So I'd just like to address a couple here today. They're not necessarily questions, but just comments I want to get on record. In regards to the traffic study, I noted that it was completed during COVID with math completed to assume regular traffic patterns. I would just suggest an updated traffic study be completed before the build, since the build will be in 2023. On Brenda Boulevard, there was a building recently built. It's obviously still in construction, but as soon as residents move in, I believe that there will be an increase in traffic. And then in terms of parking, let's all be honest, we all have more than one car. So in my opinion, and I understand there's not much research provided with that, but there's not enough parking provided. So we're already seeing tons of parking on Brenda Boulevard. A building was just built with limited parking, which will see an increase of more street parking on Brenda. Not just this, but it's my understanding that they will be shifting to one-side parking in the future. There is an opening on Brenda Boulevard that will allow people to park on Brenda, which gives easy access to the development. So is there any comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe did you want me to take this, Larissa? Or did you want to comment? Sorry.
Sure, I can start, and we can. So to you, Ms. Hutima, the access that you're speaking into Brenda, I don't believe that connects into the development. The only access proposed is onto Sea Line. It's one access. And in regards to parking on one side of the street, that's a report that's going to be coming forward to council, I believe, later this year. It hasn't been finalized yet, and I can't speak to the status of that.
Of course. Sorry, I should reiterate that the entrance that's within Brenda may not be proposed by the construction or by your plans, but it doesn't mean that there's, not easy access. So you can easily go. So you can park on Brenda, you can just literally walk across the bushes, and you now have access to the development. So even though it's not necessarily, set up in your development, there's easy access to Brenda street parking. And I do believe that that'll be the next step. It's what I would do anyways if I were visiting someone in that development. The next thing is the report on noise. It seems to me that the report was more about how things would affect people within the development. But obviously us on Brenda are severely impacted. Post-COVID, myself moving to Orangeville from Toronto, who normally does support development, with construction, even just being that 1 year plus, I work from home. I'm on the phone probably 100% of my day. From those legal construction hours, I now have to find another place to work. And, you know, with that push of people moving from Toronto to Orangeville, with that ability to work from home, we're now all screwed. So we will all need to find some way to, number one, combat that construction noise, and then post-development, have we been considered? Have we been considered for the 52 townhouses that will be built?
Anybody like to take that one?
I can speak to the noise study perhaps. So that is a requirement of the new development. The noise study does need to look at any transportation noise onto the proposed development as well as stationary noise. And as the applicants have outlined, there's no concerns, or if there are concerns, they can be mitigated. In terms of construction noise, they've also noted that that will be in accordance with a plan that will be outlined and in agreements with the town. I don't know if Ms. Redfern or Ms. Yan do have anything they can add in terms of that, but construction is unfortunately one of the things we need to deal with new construction and of new homes.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Larissa. Construction noise is inevitable with new development. Development times for construction are generally between 7:30 and 6 o'clock, and this has been demonstrated and discussed with this particular developer at pre-construction meetings for other developments within the town. We try our best to minimize the amount of time that construction takes place, but inevitable considerations for timing for crews for construction are always in place. So we do try to minimize as much as possible that impact. Just for clarification as well, just with respect to the traffic question you had, Ms. Mera, I think your concern was related to our traffic impact study that was prepared by Triton Engineering. Not considering the actual traffic post-pandemic. What development applications in across Ontario have been doing, or maybe across Canada even, has been accounting for pre-pandemic traffic impacts. So they adjust the existing traffic conditions to reflect a condition that's pre-pandemic. So I just wanted to make you rest assured that the traffic impact study that was prepared has adjusted that in order to be able to provide those recommendations as a conclusion of their report.
Okay, and just because YouTube is not synced up very well, do you live in Orangeville? Do you live in the Browns Farm area?
No, I don't.
Okay, so at the top of the street of Brenda, there is a crosswalk with no lights. I don't know if anyone on town council or anyone on this call has actually attempted to cross that street, but it's extremely dangerous. I do not have children, but I am friends with people in the neighborhood who do have children, and I've been notified that they have to now go an extra 20-minute walk to an area where they feel safe to cross the street. So I really hope that it's considered in future, maybe post-build, that another traffic study is completed where they consider actually putting in lights so that people can safely cross the street, because it is extremely dangerous at this point. We also have seen an increase of people not stopping at stop signs. We've also called the OPP and have attempted to get them to come and ticket. It is not the case. Not enough tickets are being given out. People continue to rev their engines, speed down Brenda, and not just regular cars, but trucks as well, because they're all avoiding how slow, C line as well, but Broadway is. They come down Brenda to cut some corners. So it is definitely a concern of ours. Last thing I wanted to note is that I currently have a petition out 317 residents of Orangeville, specifically to Browns Farm neighborhood. And I know some of town council have seen it on Facebook and interacted with the post. Thank you, Sandy. But they've all signed. We're not in favor of this development moving forward. There was a consideration earlier when it was a smaller plan. So we completely understand that numbers need to be hit. Money is great for Orangeville, but 52 is a bit excessive. And quite frankly, stuffing people in like sardines is not something that we're interested in here in Orangeville. So I just wanted to make that public record. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Very interesting about the traffic. Something I never considered, but thank you for bringing it to my attention anyway, and I'm sure council's. Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public wishes to ask a question? If you're muted, please hit *6 to unmute. Is there anybody else? Last call. Okay, now we'll take questions from council. I just have a quick question for Larissa. I noticed on your presentation that the fire department hadn't commented on it. I may have missed that, or I didn't see it. I just wondered, is that just they haven't got back, or is there a problem that they had with it? But I didn't recall seeing their names down there.
So through you, they did end up commenting, and they had just some minor comments that can be addressed through site plan, but they were satisfied with the width of the road.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Sherwood, I believe you were first.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'll try and make this quick. First of all, I'm going to address this to Mr. Osmond. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Mr. Osmond. Can you tell me where the closest park is for these children to go play?
Thank you, Worship, through you, Chair, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Sherwood. I think the closest park here would be Lions Park to the rear, a walk within Lions Park. And one of the things I'll look at actually on the site, I wasn't sure, I couldn't see on the back of the site if there was a walkway connecting the back street. That's one thing to look at. There's also sidewalks, of course, that go back on both sides, get you to Lions Park. It's also, you also got a little walk to Alder Street, or Alder Recreation Center to the west. And likewise, if you were to cross over onto the, I'll say on the north side of Broadway, then you would be going up into Parkinson onto the Veterans Trail. And likewise, you can go east, west, north. So there's lots of spaces around the site. Gooseberry is also close by this site, so there's lots of things going on to cater to or accommodate recreational spaces throughout the division, that actual design, the development.
Thank you, Mr. Osmond. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Redfern, can you put your site plan back up on the screen, please? Because one of the concerns I have is that being in that type of neighborhood, there's likely going to be some young families with some young children. And I'd like to see some kind of parkette for the children there, because those parks that Mr. Osmond just mentioned are a significant area, a distance. And some of them are outright dangerous for young children to go over and play. I certainly wouldn't want them crossing Broadway or Sea Line to go to a park. And again, the distance to the Lions Park down on Diane is quite a distance. Are you able to make any type of accommodation to put some kind of tot block? I'm kind of looking where it might fit, and it's kind of where that arrow you just kind of showed it. There's the 3-lane towns, and then the yeah, right there. Is there enough room there for a top block? A parkette? Or sorry, Larissa, you know the wording. You always provide it to me. And
a tot lot.
Tot lot, that's it. A tot lot. Something for the younger children to be able to play in their own neighborhood.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we definitely can consider that moving forward. We were actually meeting with the town later this week to discuss the orientation of that block and what type of uses could be put into that amenity area. So that is definitely a consideration. And we would then show that on the landscape plan as part of the site plan process.
that would be very much appreciated, because if you could, when you're doing that review, take a look at where those closest parks are. And like I said, Mr. Osmond mentioned that it sounded like there was quite a few, but they're not safely accessible for young families to go to. So, and my one more quick question, Mr. Chair, is along Brenda Boulevard. I don't know if can you find Brenda Boulevard on here, if it's on this area.
I'll bring over my map.
This map. So I think you might have answered my question. So see that little little laneway there? Will there be any intention of accessing that into the development?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the owner does not own these lands. The owner of 340 Broadway and does not own these lands, so we would not be able to connect unless future agreements were made. So at this time, there are no plans to connect to that road stub.
Okay, all right. So, because that was my concern, is then all of a sudden you're going to have traffic coming in and out of Brenda to go into there. So that's not, that area right where it butts onto there is not included in the.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The site starts over here.
Starts where? Sorry.
Where my cursor is on. This is the property line, approximately.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There is access to it by foot, and that's something to be aware of.
But that would be quite a distance, ma'am, I think, to walk from where that is to where the proposal is going to be. From what they just.
I would say it's about a 3-minute walk. I've done it personally. I live on Brenda,
okay.
And I used to walk my dogs back there. It is very easily accessible by foot.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Andrews, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It is appreciative that we have members of our public joining us tonight. I see that we're zeroing in on the traffic, and that too is part of what I wanted to talk about in the next couple of questions that I have. First of all, a comment. If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Yandu, as well as Redfern, you had referenced that the developer was also responsible for the property across the road on the Sea Line that would be, I guess, west of the proposed development. And I do have to compliment on a couple of notes. What I do like is, in fact, that there seems to be somewhat of a barrier, a road that is going kind of, it's a laneway that would be kind of north and south, allowing the townhouses that face Sea Line facing east. So it provides somewhat of a barrier. So my first question is pertaining to the townhouses that are located in this proposed development on page 25. I know that Ms. Redford, you had highlighted the visual. So the site plan there is, I guess, it looks from where I'm looking on my monitor right now, 5, maybe 4 townhomes that are in fact directly facing Sea Line, and that would be facing west. Would those particular townhomes have access directly off of Sea Line into their driveway, or would they be actually having access to their townhomes from the interior road that is proposed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can take this question. Councillor Andrews, those are a part of the 3-story rear lane townhouses. And what that is that the front doors will have access to Sea Line. However, vehicular access is located behind. And so garages are behind, and that just really takes off any additional driveways that are going to go on a major road like Sea Line. So we'll have the facade of the building right up front, creating that great urban edge. However, vehicular traffic will be internal.
I appreciate that clarification. And the reason why I reference this is, in fact, I'm very familiar with the property that is literally adjacent, and that would be north of where your proposed development is. I have dropped into that driveway a number of times over the years, and there is an incline. And so one of the things that I think that has shown up in the traffic study, and it may be an omission, but again, you talk about visibility. Whenever I've had to back out, it has been precarious, and that is an understatement because of the traffic that is in fact going northbound on Sea Line. So that is just one note, and I'm at least appreciative to hear that the access to those multi layered or stacked townhomes that you reference will be from the interior road. Also, based on the interior road, I do notice that close to where the 340 Broadway property is located, there seems to be somewhat of a continuation of that road going northbound. Is there a reason for that? Is that to allow additional parking, or is that just for emergency access? I'm just looking for some clarification on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Andrews. Absolutely great question. Yes, that is an emergency access. The intent of that is an emergency access, both for the homeowner at 340 Broadway because they are in the Mill Creek area. In the event that Mill Creek overflows and they don't have safe access to Broadway, that they're able to utilize this emergency access in order to get to Sea Line and have safe access. And vice versa, if there was Sea Line that was ever going to have any blockage of access for emergency vehicles, if this driveway was open, that they would have access to the development. So the intent is not for this to be open at all, and there'd be emergency bollards that would have to be removed in order for this to happen. But definitely we're considering the safety of both the homeowner for 340 Broadway and the homeowners for the new development.
Okay, and again, I'll have to speak with Mr. Osmond and those responsible for crossing guards offline, but I do understand the concern of the resident that highlighted the traffic at Brenda and Sea Line. I have attempted to cross that area, and there can be some precarious moments. And so I think that something that which would not necessarily be targeted to the developer here, but just a piece that I'll investigate offline. But I do thank you for your answers, and look forward to other members of council to pose their questions tonight.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Mayor Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair McIntosh. I just wanted to make the comment. I was looking at the satellite image of this area, and Councillor Andrews referenced the townhouse project across the road. I think it's 48 Sea Line, which, if I'm not mistaken, Haymount developed that property. And I think there's 70 or 80 townhouses on that parcel of land, which looks like it's actually smaller than this parcel. So somebody mentioned earlier about shoehorning things in. Well, this development actually has a lower density than we've seen in other developments, and I think it looks quite nice. All the homework's been done regarding traffic studies. I think we all are concerned about traffic issues. They are existing today before this development is in place. So I think, one of the callers mentioned about racing on Brenda. Well, we have racing on 3rd Street. We have racing on Zina Street. I've just received emails in the last few days about Zina. It's all over, and unfortunately, it's our neighbors who are doing it. And the police can't be everywhere. I think the town, and I know Councillors Post and Taylor have been leading the charge on safe, roads. We are looking at additional traffic calming measures, and I think we have to implement them. And but in terms of additional traffic here, I've read the traffic reports on this development, and it really is not going to create, traffic chaos here. It's going to be, this is an appropriate development, in my opinion, in a less dense proposal than other ones that we've seen, and I'm supportive of it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you, Your Worship, for calling out Councillor Post and I. And you're right. I mean, it's been a big battle, and I know all of us are aligned to road safety. And then to you, Councillor Andrews, your commentary about the crosswalk that was called out by the resident, you're spot on, and the resident is spot on as well. And this is not new to me. And if I may, Mr. Koslak, if I could put you on the spot and just ask for your opinion, but your predecessor had said that lights and whatnot were not necessary there. There was a need to have those lines repainted, so they had faded, or maybe I'm not remembering it properly, but they were removed and then people were trying to cross and they couldn't get across there. And so now it's there, and candidly, I still hear some concerns, and it's just interesting that we hear it tonight. And then, Mr. Chair, if it's okay to come back to me, I just have one other question for our developer friends, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, to me, through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, I actually hadn't heard a request for an all-way stop or a crosswalk at subject intersection, but certainly it's something worth counting the cars, counting the pedestrians, understanding the nature of the traffic movements out there, and seeing if it meets the warrants for a treatment, what treatment is appropriate. Off the top of my head, I don't know. There are 2 signalized intersections in the area, one at Broadway, one at Diane. You know, both of them are reasonably close, but we also know that some pedestrians do become impatient and try and cross at an intersection that's less safe. That one's definitely on, you know, the apex of a curve of a hill, and it warrants an investigation. I don't have an answer for you today, but certainly we'd be happy to, you know, as staff, look at it and see what's appropriate.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kosak. Mr. Chair, is okay to ask another question?
Right ahead.
Yeah. Through you, Ms. Chandu, the development itself, I think I don't want to offend any residents, so I don't pass judgment on the properties themselves, but I'm just curious, and I think I know the answer, but there's 3 remaining properties on that stead, in particular the one on the corner of Sea Line and Broadway. You had no interest in pursuing that, or it just wasn't available to you?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have no information about whether or not our owner has been pursuing additional properties. I do know that 31 Sea Line had gone into pre-consultation with the developer before our owner had picked it up. We think that's a very positive outcome, being able to do a more comprehensive plan with a primary access for both parcels for the development. But with respect to additional properties, I can take that back to our client and maybe come back to you about that. Sure. But at this time, we have primary access in an appropriate location. We have a very comprehensive plan that incorporates areas to remove septic systems, a previous development application that would have been separate from this one, and found that this parcel itself is a very comprehensive and appropriate plan for this intensification area.
If I may, just to be clear, I wasn't insinuating you didn't. I think you've done a fine job with all the planning. There's 2 or 3 properties that are still there, and to me, it always looks funny when a big development is built up around them. And I was just curious if you had any background, and you don't, so no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Mayor Brown, do you have a question?
No, I'll take my hand down. My apologies.
Oh, that's fine. Councillor Post, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My council colleagues have covered a lot of my questions and concerns, but the one additional item that I would like to speak about, and one that we run into fairly frequently in Orangeville whenever a development of this nature comes, is visitor parking and lack thereof. Parking, I know, is a contentious issue all across the province. It's not Orangeville specific, but in developments of this nature, we find that 10 or 11 spaces is often not enough to complement that many homes. And I do think that 10 or 11 is a better number than we've seen from other developers at different times. However, if there is an opportunity to add more visitor parking, it would be one comment that I would make that I would like to see a little bit more of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Post. Is there any other questions from council on this matter? Seeing none, we have a couple of motions we need tonight. The first motion I need is a motion to receive the staff report. Mayor Brown, Councillor Andrews, all in favor? Passed. The second motion is to receive the correspondence from Barb and Larry Rankin and Jody Atherton. Councillor Post, Councillor Sherwood, all in favor? Passed. Thank you. I will now turn the meeting back over to Mayor Brown.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So what we have now is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Orangeville. That's council's public meeting held on June the 6th, 2022. Can we have a motion for this, please? Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Post. All in favor? And a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Taylor, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Good
Have
night,
a great
everyone.
night.
Rest of your evening.
Good night,
Hi,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks.
Good night, all.
Night, everyone. Night.
Good night.